magic makers, and welcome back to the Metaphysical Apothecary. We are your hosts, Megan and Shannon. Say hi, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
We are also known as the Scorpio Sisters, and we are here to explore the mysterious, magical, and the arcane. Our brains absolutely have an effect on the world around us, and that's one of the reasons that both the superstitions and the cultures and folklore exist. And we can create these spaces with the superstitions around them, even if they're completely innocuous to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
They can become spaces that have legends and folklore around them and rules that you need to follow.
Yeah. Route 666 actually ended up being exactly like that.
Mm-hmm.
Route 666 is a highway out in the western part of the United States. When the highways were first starting to be built in the 50s and the 60s, this particular highway is listed as about 141 miles long, and it was arbitrarily numbered because that's how they were labeling the routes that the highways were taking were through numbers. They had just finished 665. So the next number on the list was 666. And they had no thoughts of, oh, this is going to be the Devil's Highway, or this is a particularly dangerous route, or the land that's going over is cursed, or none of that. There was nothing there. So they just literally named it the highway based off the number system that they had been using and continued on to make 667, so on and so forth. Then people started to use it. Then people got uncomfortable using it because of the association that 666 has with the beast as a number associated with Satan. And as more and more people fed that negative fear-based energy towards the highway, people were actually getting into accidents. Weird things were actually happening on the highway. So they started to create this vortex of high weirdness on the highway that was arbitrarily numbered with nothing more than, we just finished 665. Obviously, the next number up is 666. To the point where even after certain highways were closed down, the number system still remained, and they still have trouble with supernatural and weird things happening around that highway.
Mm-hmm.
What I find interesting is there was a Route 616, which is the other number associated with the beast. No obvious supernatural or superstition around the Route 616.
Because it's lesser well known.
It's lesser well known, and if it was a superstition based off of actual purpose and not just a fear-based associated with one particular emperor in Rome, according to theologists and academics, wouldn't they both have superstitions and supernatural events happening around them? They're both equally right. They're both equally associated with the beast. It's just one is better well known by the populace than the other.
Right. If they were both actually imbued with the power of the number based on it being associated with what many view as a being of pure evil, then weird, creepy stuff would have started happening on both highways, but it only started happening on the one that was more well-known in pop culture.
Which just goes to further show this supernatural event that now happens to unbelievers as much as it happens to believers was perpetuated by human belief and the energy and effort they were putting into that belief associated with that highway.
Mm-hmm.
So we created a supernatural spot that is now a spot of weirdness.
Exactly. This is interwoven throughout global culture, actually, the number 13. It's supposed to be a very unlucky number in modern superstition. It's heavily associated with the occult, so there's the touch of the satanic panic in there. Friday the 13th was supposed to be an unlucky day because that's when the Knights Templar were slaughtered, but it was also an attempt to Christianize a day that was sacred to goddess energy, goddess worship, and particularly the goddess Freya.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, it worked because not a lot of people know those things. And now when we see the number 13, a lot of us cringe. I don't anymore, but I used to.
Another interesting little tidbit. 13 has actually always been associated with good things in my family.
Interesting.
And Friday the 13th in particular. One of my cousins was born on Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Another was a great grandparents set got married on the 13th. And I think it was Friday the 13th, but I can't be sure. So I'm not saying it's Friday.
That's cool.
Good things tend to happen on Friday the 13th, or they happen, but there's like a build up, and that's when they blossom.
Yeah.
My family is weird. I love them. I love the weird pieces of us, especially.
Well, you know that it's associated with the lunar cycle as well. So you complete a lunar cycle and things manifest, right? Because it's the full moon.
Yeah. We do have a take back of Friday the 13th in modern culture, where we now have tattoo conventions for Friday the 13th to destigmatize that particular number and the cultural superstition of bad luck behind it.
Right. But it still pervades in so much as their hotels won't label the 13th floor the 13th floor. There is technically no 13th floor in a hotel. There will be no 13th row in transportation vehicles like planes or buses.
Exactly. Skyscrapers that even if they have a 13th floor, no one can get on it. There's nothing there but pillars.
Yeah, it's a dummy floor.
So it may be there, but there's no way for you to get there. The elevator just skips right on over it.
It's kind of its own liminal space, which is interesting because the energy in those places must be wild.
Oh, I'm sure. Skyscrapers in general will have dummy floors. Usually those dummy floors are also meant for some maintenance of some sort, but I've never heard of maintenance being done on the dummy floor of the 13th.
Yeah, me either.
On the other side of the world, in Japan, they don't have the same cultural superstition around the number 13. They have it around the number 4. The number 4 and the word for death is very similar. So every time you say or see or think it or dial even the number 4, you are manifesting or calling to you an element of death. So one of the cheapest phone numbers in Japan actually is a number riddled with 4.
And look at the reason why the number 4 is so maligned. It's because the pronunciation of the number is very close to the word for death.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, that's the only reason I was ever given. If there is more to the story, I would love to know it.
Absolutely.
Even on my trip to Japan, an adorable Japanese man was practicing his English that he had learned on his own by listening to American radio. And one of the topics that came up happened to be the number 4. Don't know how, don't know why, but he's the one who gave me that information. So
odds are he knows what he's talking about.
I'm not going to doubt him. Until someone else with more experience in the culture tells me otherwise, I'm not going to doubt him.
Exactly.
Some other cultural and spiritual, historical, even things that have been listed as superstition, whether or not you believe them to be superstition is utterly and completely up to you. It would be astrology, tarot, weather divining, dowsing for water, going in, doing things deosil and wintershin. Those are all very witchy and magical things, but astrology is almost always, especially by modern academia, to be shoved into the superstition arena, and it's used as a way to diminish and ridicule the study of the stars, which is the exact meaning of the word astrology, astro, star, ology, study.
Uh-huh.
So it's one of the ancient forms of studying the stars. And I do find it interesting that these are ancient or historical patterns and systems that were used for a very long period of time that got pushed into superstition and superstitious beliefs that should be let go.
Uh-huh.
They
Absolutely.
were used for such a long period of time over multiple global cultures that shoving them into superstition was just a way to not examine something that is working without realizing why it is working.
Exactly.
Now, you could still believe that astrology is superstitious, that personal belief, or you could look around and go, well, our meteorology is kind of weather divining, so yeah. That's all we have on the topic for today. Thank you so much for listening in, and we hope you'll join us again. In the meantime, you can follow us on our blog for some more witchy wisdom, as well as check out some of our original art on Society 6 for sacred decor and more. Thank you again for joining us, and go make some magic and live your best life. Bye.
Bye, everyone.